أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم وبه نستعين الحمد لله رب العالمين وصلى الله على محمد وآله الطيبين الطاهرين اللهم صل على محمد وعلى محمد. The way you understand something drastically shapes and changes how you see it, where you see it, and what you expect from it. Yes or no? If you understood a scholar to be somebody who was a great soccer player, then what would you expect from me? Soccer skills. Yes or no? Okay. So the way you understand something drastically impacts what you expect from it, and also drastically impacts if you see it or not. Okay. If you expected great soccer skills from a scholar, then you saw that a scholar didn't have great soccer skills, you might come and say, they're not a good scholar, because your expectation of a scholar was soccer skills. So how you expect something from someone, or some title or something, drastically impacts your interaction with it. But one of the things that you have to understand appropriately is masculinity. Otherwise, what happens? Your expectation regarding it changes, and where you spot it changes too. You might spot masculinity in displays of feminineness, womanhood basically. You see that? A masculine man might, if he understands masculinity wrong, you might expect it to have certain aspects to it that are actually not masculine. You see that? If he understood it incorrectly, he might also expect certain things from it that he doesn't see here or there. For example, let me give a very real example. According to the current understanding of a masculine man in the West, somebody who puts up with a lot of nonsense from their wife or their relationship at home, is he a masculine man? Western understanding. You tell me. A guy who, they call him a simp, right? Yes or no? Yeah? Okay. Those guys who are right behind the camera, either go this way or that way. Because I like to talk to people, not the camera. Thank you.
So you're gonna grab a meal. Would you like one?
I just like water if you can get it.
Just water? And anyone who wants a meal? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
No, I just need water. That's my meal. So, what do you call again a person who gets treated badly at home and puts up with it? Right? Look at the seerah of the pious individuals in history. Hazrat Nuh alayhi salam, how many years did he deal with the bad lady at home? Long time. If you were to apply the current understanding of masculinity, na'udhu billah, you might call one of the manliest of men something which is not worthy of him at all. You see that? You see that? So understanding certain things appropriately is important, otherwise you fall and make mistakes in identification of it. If you thought Pikachu was red, right, you'd be looking for a red Pikachu, correct? You would never then find a yellow Pikachu. You could be in a room full of Pikachu and you still be like, there's no Pikachu here. You see that? The reality is understanding things how they actually are is essential. What topic does understanding reality linked to? Falsafa, ahsant, and mantiq, logic, and usul as well, right? And fiqh too. What's the real thing to do? Here's God want me to do. You see that? And the Quran too. The Quran is trying to show you reality, and the ahadith as well. They're there to show you reality. You see that? We don't believe in a philosophy which is disconnected from the Quran and hadith. We also don't believe in a Quran and hadith which is disconnected from understanding reality. You see this point? Okay. Having said this, masculinity has certain traits to it that we have to keep into our consideration and understanding. Okay? What's the apex role of masculinity? How do you know what certain a thing, you look at its end game, right? What's the last stage of it? That's what you recognize cool or not cool. When you're looking to see if somebody's a doctor or not, are you looking at them in their first year or second year of school, or are you looking at them after they graduate and what they end up doing? Right? A doctor is identified with the end game, right? Same with a teacher too, right? Same with a soccer player as well. Do you call like you're not very rarely would you identify something with in the middle of their journey. Most often you're identifying it with their end of their journey, the end game. Okay. Uh, don't put it here. Just put this. Thank you so much. So the end game matters now. So when it comes to masculinity, what's the end game of masculinity in Islam? Yeah.
What's the end game?
And what's the final stage?
Piety. Being.
Well, if that's the case, then there's no difference between men and women, and masculinity and chickenhood is also the same, and womanhood and scholarliness and everything else. Because everything else is piety. That's the go-to cop-out answer. When you don't know the answer, say circle C. What's the real answer? Tell me I will play ball with you. I'm not scared to play ball. Huh? Heaven.
Is that not the end game?
Question. What's the end game of a doctor? Is it other than heaven? A pious doctor would also want to go to heaven, right? When you're talking about doctors and masculinity, is there a difference between the two? Yes or no? Of course, yes, right? But now when we're talking about the end game of a particular thing, it has to be that thing specific, correct? Is heaven specific to masculinity? No. Well, then that's not the appropriate end game of masculinity when we're looking at it as an entity. You see that?
I thought you were asking the end game of Islam.
No, I said a very specific question. End game of masculinity. What's the apex position of masculinity in Islam?
With respect to others.
Is it specific to masculinity? No, it's not. So it's not the end game. Right?
Have lots of children.
Fatherhood. Okay. Anyone want to prove that? Anyone want to disagree with that? Say you're wrong.
I would say it's agreeable because fatherhood is a very important part of Islam.
It's important, but how do you know it's the apex? I mean, like a mountain range will have lots of peaks. How do you know this is the peak? What's up?
Financial freedom.
Okay. Husband has financial freedom. More so than a father. The father's got to pay for the kids' schooling and stuff. Not in Canada because public school is free, but Islamic school not, for example. Okay? So, okay, I wouldn't accept that answer. Right? You see that? You see, I'm playing ball with you. I literally, if it doesn't float my boat, I'm gonna say, I'm sorry. Try harder. You see that? And I expect the same from you. If something I say sounds fluffy, I expect you to tell me, say that sounds. Say it, fluffy.
So I would say fatherhood is very important, and it basically it is a trait of masculinity because we see this in very masculine men, such as Imam Ali, how he was his fatherhood was a peak of his masculinity, and it showed his honor from his children.
You're saying the occurrence of it in really good men is there, and therefore it must be the peak. Okay, are those really good men not husbands as well?
Yes.
Then I could use the same argument that you presented to me for the sake of saying that it's husbandhood that's the peak.
Well, I wouldn't say necessarily there is a peak. I would say there are a bunch of peaks that basically are traits of masculinity, and you can't just pick a single peak to describe this attribute of masculinity. But all these peaks have to be basically attributed to someone to become masculine. Because you can't be a good father, but then also a terrible husband. You will not.
Why?
Because if you're a good father but you treat your wife terribly, you can't be somebody who's considered masculine. Because again, if we go back to the
Go to a lady who just divorced her husband. Say, why you divorced? Was he not a great father? Like, he was a great dad. A terrible husband. Possible or not possible? You tell me.
Possible, yes.
Okay. If that's possible, then why'd you say it's not possible?
Well, I'm not saying that it's impossible for a husband to be a good caretaker of his children. I'm saying it's impossible for a man to be masculine by just acquiring one of the traits as being a good father. But if he lacks in other points, then the peaks are lacking, meaning he's not a masculine man. He's just a masculine man in that sense.
Your answer is only true if you suppose fatherhood to be the actual peak, such that husbandhood is the like the fatherhood is a continuation of the husbandhood. You see that? That's the only way your answer holds. Because you're like, if you're truly at that peak, then you must have this elevation too, right? If it's the peak, then you can't be here while missing out on the elevations here. Correct?
I don't specifically mean like just in fatherhood and like being a good husband. I'm using those two as examples.
I'm talking about masculinity. Masculinity goes from sonhood to what?
Fatherhood.
Chickenhood? No. Husbandhood? No. If you went from sonhood to fatherhood, your papa's going to come and... Like, what happened to marriage? Yes or no? It would do to me.
Maybe someone, maybe a man with some, or a man with a lot of pride and dignity.
Okay, and is that specific to masculinity, or can others have?
I think so.
Women can't be proudful and dignified?
You think women can't have pride and dignity? Yeah, for sure.
Hope, then it's not specific to masculinity. It's like the heaven answer. I told you the heaven answer is not specific to this. So he was on the right track with fatherhood. My ball that I was playing with him, the catch game I was playing with him, why not husbandhood? You see that? And his argument was in great men. I was like, isn't husbandhood in great men as well? What makes one the peak and not the other? What?
So someone that people feel safer, like in this case would be like the wife and the children.
I feel really safe around my wife because she protects me from all the haram out there. Yeah, I do. Every man does. Children feel safe in a police station from burglars. Yes or no? It's not specific to males. Okay.
Authority? As in
Who has the emotional authority in a household?
emotional authority?
Yeah.
The wife.
Yes. The one who's able to understand emotions. Not the doorknob who doesn't understand emotions. You see that? Our color palette in terms of understanding and appreciation of emotions is quite limited. You see red, blue, green. They see hues. You see that? They can sense something off a lot sooner than you can sense something off in certain cases. Go to a father and say, wife goes to her husband and says, that kid is feeling a little bit off. Maybe there's something wrong in your relationship with them. The father doesn't pick it up for a while. The mother picks up issues a lot quicker. You see that? Okay. Emotional manager of the house right there. The one responsible for cultivating love in the house. The positive emotion of the house. Okay, not that. I'm going to give you one hint and then we'll move on. But I'll leave the solution to your thoughts, the proof to your thoughts. When it came time for the Holy Prophet to introduce himself to the Ummah, and Amir al-Mu'min to the Ummah, he could have said, me and Amir al-Mu'min are the doctors of this Ummah. He could have said, me and Amir al-Mu'min are the kings of the Ummah. Right? He said a very specific thing when he wanted to introduce the two. Anybody think there's a higher masculine figure than the Holy Prophet and Amir al-Mu'minin? No. Right? The apex of masculinity is them like personified, right? So when it came time to introduce themselves to the Ummah, they said, me and Ali are the father of this Ummah. The Holy Prophet is attributing fatherhood to show the apex position in the Ummah. Does anybody think that he was trying to show something other than the apex position there? No. He's trying to show that, look, when it comes to the Ummah, the ones who are kind of like, at the top over here, the apex position, it's me and Ali. You understand? That's one of the riwayat we actually use to prove Imam Ali later on as well, in Kalam. You see that? Okay. He didn't choose this Khalifa or that Khalifa or this companion or that companion. You said, look, me and Ali are the fathers of this particular Ummah. Father innately has wilaya. Yes or no? Okay. I'm just giving an example to you, but I won't go after the proofs of it. That I'll let you think about. You see that? Okay. Question though. We'll talk of masculinity and the apex role and so on and so forth, came to this conclusion that at least through one example, it's possible to consider fatherhood as the apex role. Does that mean to be a father? Everybody can't have kids, can they? Some men can't have kids, right? Fatherhood and father are the same or different? They're different. The traits required to be a father is surmised in the title called fatherhood, correct? And the actualization of that is something that is being called the father. After someone's kids pass away, let's say, God forbid, does his fatherhood go too? Tell me. Does he feel that those traits that made him that father, after let's say his young kids, they passed away, old kids too, they passed away. Now that old man, don't call him a father anymore? He wasn't. No, fatherhood doesn't leave him. Even though the apparent position of being a father to actual live kids might not be there at that particular stage. You see that? Understand this, very important. Two different things. The display of something and to have it inside are two different things. Okay. If your understanding of the masculine role is not that, that's not what you're going to be chasing when it comes time to being a manly man. You see that? If you're out to climb Mount Everest, but you're chasing that peak or that valley, you're not out to climb Mount Everest. Yes or no? So if you're out to be a manly man, and if you associate the peak of masculinity from an understanding from the West, that's the peak you're going to be chasing. And if it's money and fame and authority and control, and that's the value you're going to be running after. But that's not the peak of masculinity. You're running after a red Pikachu. You see that? Okay. Well, Islam comes and tells you Pikachu is yellow. Okay. If you understood this, recite a salawat, please. Okay. Now ask me a question, but I have one condition. Ask me real questions. Questions that will help you leave today a better person. How do you know that? It's a cool trick. Okay? Close your eyes and rate yourself as a person between 1 to 10. Okay? As a person, fitratan, you'll tell yourself a particular number. Okay? Focus yourself. If it's 10, you're thinking you're masoom. It's a problem. So clearly there's going to be some sort of a number that's below 10. Peek over at the empty boxes. 10 boxes, right? Peek at the empty boxes and open them and say, what would fill them? Ask questions about those things. Is this trick? Helps you focus about what to ask about. Okay, go ahead.
When it comes to being someone who is addicted to the dunya and to its delusions, what would you say are the best ways to overcome these delusions and make your sole goal into pleasing Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala?
What's an addiction?
Addiction is something that you have a hard time doing, hard time leaving, even though you know it's something that it's not good for you in a sense, or it could be good for you.
Is a junkie who's in rehab and has no access to drugs all of a sudden not addicted because over there he doesn't have a hard time letting go of things because there's nothing to let go of, right? All of a sudden at that time, do you tell him you're not addicted? No, you still tell him you're addicted, right? So your definition of addiction is not correct here. Correct your definition of addiction first. Do you guys see the point that I just made? What did I say? You're nodding your head. I mean, you signed up for the question. What did I say?
He doesn't have the full definition of addiction.
Why?
In order to call the question.
Why?
Because he thought addiction was different than what someone who.
Don't play that ball. Play proper ball. What did he say?
I don't remember exactly what it said.
Okay.
But your point is basically that someone who's addicted, even if they don't have access to whatever they're addicted to, is still considered an addict.
That someone who can't let go of something, right, is somebody who's addicted. And I told him in rehab, when there's no actual thing, there's nothing to hold such that you have to let go, right? To have to hold something to let it go. In rehab, there's nothing there. There's no drugs. Look at the rehab of an individual that goes to rehab for a month. You ask him, how many days did you smoke weed or whatever drug, basically? He says 0. It's like, great, so you're not addicted. No, dummy, because they don't have it here. Does that make sense? Okay. So what I told him is that addiction is don't look at just the appearance of letting go of things. It's possible for a person to be addicted, yet other things prevent them from latching on to things. Do you understand? Many people are addicted to money, such that the only thing keeping from robbing a bank is the police. And when riots break out, you see that, and then the police are scarce. Look at the pictures in America and other places the riots break out. They start looting and robbing and so on, because the only thing that was preventing them from the addiction of getting that extra TV was the po-pos. When they're not around, I go after the TV, or that guy goes after the TV now. Right? So addiction could be internal, and actually is. The actual addiction is internal. Okay? Addiction is to a substance or a person or a habit. There's no fourth thing. Addiction is, if there is a fourth thing, let me know. I gotta change up my master's thesis. Addiction is either to a substance, person, or a habit. Yes or no? Sah? Okay. So when the dunya attracts you, what's the dunya?
I would say the dunya is obviously the physical sense of
Which way is the qibla? Qibla is this way, right? If I stand this way and I pray 2 rakah salah linnas, is that salah a dunyavi salah or a ukhravi salah? Dunya salah, right? Go to hellfire for that, correct?
Yeah.
Okay. So even a salah then could be technically dunyavi, correct? What made that salah dunyavi? Because it was not for Allah. That means that everything that's for other than Allah becomes dunyavi thing. So you go halal income. Have a halal job, say it, great. Is it for you or is it for Allah? If it's out of an addiction of money or position or status, even if it's apparently halal, it's a dunyavi job. Good luck, buddy. Not getting you anywhere. Yeah? He said sah. What does that mean actually? No, not the sah. This particular thing that I just said. I said that if you're doing something for other than Allah, then that thing becomes a dunyavi thing, useless. What does this mean? When you go to brush your teeth in the morning, you think you're doing it for Allah? Or you're doing it because your mouth smells and you gotta kind of get rid of the smell?
Well, I would say you can do it for Allah.
Can do it for Allah.
Or you can pleasing for the nafs. Like Allah tells you, and Rasulullah tells you that basically it's good to be cleanly, to have good hygiene.
You're eating food right now. Every bite you're thinking of, is it tasbih of Allah going on in your mind? Allah, 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 Allah.
What should be shukr of that?
Shukr. That's what happening? Shukr.
No, because at a certain point, you should have at least some sort of shukr.
Allah is a one for whom there is no second. Ever heard of that? Right? Allah is one for whom there is no second. If you consider submission to Allah such that it's at the same level as submitting to the chicken or this food or yourself and so on and so forth, that's not even Allah to submit to. The submission of Allah is found in as the submission to His creatures. When you do sajda to Allah, where do you do sajda? Tell me. Towards the Kaaba, correct? Is that Allah? Even the most sacred sign of submitting to Allah doesn't get more apparent than sajda, right? Even that is done to ghayrullah, a Kaaba, a creature of Allah. Submitting to Allah in of itself only occurs in submitting to other than Allah, creatures of Allah. But when you submit to creatures of Allah, you have to be attentive that you're doing it for the sake of Allah. That's it. You're supposed to eat food because you're hungry and you like the chicken. You like it a lot, you finish it right away. Okay? You're supposed to. But at the same time, recognize that it's Allah who made you like it and made it halal for you. That's it. You see that? There's no tasbih counter going on. Allah, 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 shukr, shukr, shukr. Does that make sense to you or no? Does that make sense to you? Okay. If you're addicted to something of the dunya, first of all, understand that dunya is anything that is not lillah, which means that all of a sudden your addiction things became a whole lot more. It's not just for weed and this and that and so on and so forth. Anything that does not have a lillah in it, in the way that I explained it, submission to the creatures of Allah in the rightful way, having savings, having a job, having a wife, having a kid, having a house and so on and so forth in the rightful way. While understand that you're owned, and that's why you're having it this particular way. See that? If that's not there, then you have an addiction to something other than Allah. That's not good. Now, looking at addiction to substances, or habits, or people. We are habitual creatures. We're creatures of habit. That's why you'll see that if somebody goes to rehab, all of a sudden they become really, really good, and they're able to stay away. It becomes, in the beginning it's really hard. After a month and a half, 2 months, it becomes a little bit easier. And then when they go back home, they relapse. When it comes to first 10 days of Muharram, I'm addicted to na'uzubillah, listening to music or some other haram thing. And because the first 10 days I stay away from it, by the 10th, it's hard, but it's like, oh, I'm able to do it and so on and so forth. And then a few days pass away after that, and then I relapse. We're habitual creatures. If change is something that comes in phases, if it's a guest in my life, right? What happens when your guest unpacks their suitcases and decides to stay in your home? You want to tell the guest to get out. Yes or no? So if change and growth is a guest in your house, it only comes to you in Muharram or Ramadan or this and that, right? That's only when you like it. That's a nice guest. Only come when I invite you, right? Then you're in trouble, because as soon as that time ends, then you can't handle it. You want some distance from change and growth. If you're addicted to something in the dunya, in terms of person, substance, or habit, you have to ensure that you break habits. Those times when these things occur, those individuals that these things occur in, the things that lead me to go over there, control those things. I put my phone charger right beside my bed such that it's within my reach, and at the night time I wake up when I can't sleep. I develop a habit of opening my messages to see the ding, who's dinging me. Okay, and then from that I go to the next social media app and the next one, and by this time at least 4 or 5 bad images have come, and I've said, and now I actually voluntarily go towards a bad image. You see, there's a pattern. This repeats and this repeats and this repeats and this repeats. The aql is somebody who sees a pattern and says, wait a second, let me not charge my phone near my bed. Does that make sense? It's a lot harder to control a rolling ball when it's picked up momentum than when it's starting to move. Does that make sense? Okay. So addiction to substances, people, or things also has this particular pattern. Something gets the ball rolling. Identify that for yourself and stop the ball when the motion is slow. It's a lot easier then. Does that make sense? That was a generalized answer to your generalized question. Okay. Any other questions?
What do you mean by addicted to a person?
Some people are addicted to a person, meaning that when that person is there, all of a sudden everything is cool and good. And if you take that person out, that same experience turns bitter and sour. Okay? A great example is, imagine somebody in high school who has a crush on this particular girl. Having a crush is haram or not? No. The feeling of liking somebody is not haram. The action on it, the acting on it is haram. Okay. You like this girl in high school. Okay. Well, every year you guys go on this field trip to the same place in your high school, Timbuktu land. Okay. And this year when you go to Timbuktu land, that bichara girl got hit by a truck and she died last year, so this year she's not there. And you're there in Timbuktu land, and this year feels different. The same Timbuktu land, all the rides are the same. See that? The other classmates are all the same. But the thing which gave pleasure to each ride was not the ride, it was the fact that they was around. Does that make sense? Sometimes a person becomes addicted to another person, such that they attribute value to everything else only in the presence of that person. And if that person is taken out, the value of things also disappears. Does that make sense?
Is there like a dopamine response as well?
Yeah. Because you're constantly behaving in comparison to what your image projection to that person is like. If that person wasn't there, you wouldn't have riled someone up and you wouldn't fought or you wouldn't have done this or that. But when that person is there, all of a sudden my color has to be perfect and this has to be that way. And if somebody looks at me left, I have to look at him right, and so on and so forth. Your image projection becomes focused and attentive towards the perception of that person. And in that way, there's chains around you and you are oriented and guided by that particular perception in your mind. You change yourself and hand it over to not even her, the image of her. Okay? Does that make sense? Ever felt that before? Yeah. See that? Addiction to a person is real and it's possible.
I'm having trouble understanding the dopamine response to like a person if you can't, like, how do you become addicted and how do you increase the dose of a person?
Yeah.
You just have to
When you perceive yourself to be now seen better in their eyes, that self-generated perception in of itself, right? You feel now they think I'm better. Okay? That in of itself gives you a kick. You're living in an imaginative world. You see that? And that's how most individuals who like to display their own image to others get that kick, right? Because everybody else doesn't come and tell you what a great person you are. You see what I'm trying to say? When you go to the gym and you lift those weights, does everybody come and say, "Oh my God, you're such a great person"? Or is it that your perception is that, look, I look great, and that you're like, oh. Does that make sense? Very rarely would, it was a weird world where everybody was like, "You're great, man. You're such a strong person." Like half the comments we come up with in our minds regarding our own image perception are false and fake. If someone actually said that, it would be really weird. Does that make sense? Okay, so that dopamine response and rush is hit by that, and actually people try to one up themselves in that. Okay, next question. As soon as questions end, I go back to my room at my hotel place with my kids there. I've got my whole family there. Go ahead.
So when you're talking about fatherhood being an apex of manliness, there's certain dynamics that encompass fatherhood. And in Western society, I guess the motherhood and fatherhood dynamics kind of shift a little here. For example, like you marry a woman and she is a doctor, and she now becomes the primary bread maker for the family. When the dynamic shifts in that way, do you lose, I guess, your sense of masculinity in the household in that sense?
If you understood masculinity to be a red chicken, then yes. If you understood masculinity to be gaining value through only money, then yes. This is where you'll have a man who thinks that what gives him value is money, see other men who are not as rich as less manly. You see that?
In that sense, but like,
No, a very real thing. It is actually exactly that sense that gets elongated. I'll give you real case scenarios. I give counseling. I give counseling to real youth, like you, me, and others who learn from. So sometimes a youth marries or is in relationship, in a halal relationship, inshallah, with individuals who have married before or have been in relationships before. Okay, like this person that I've married, they were married before, and the person they were married to, their ex-husband, was very rich. See that? And then now this person you'll see is hypersensitive regarding his finances. See that? That if he feels that, and his criteria of assessment is always typically the standard of that guy. Does that make sense?
yeah,
If you attribute masculinity to a particular trait, you're quite literally looking for masculinity only in that trait and its displays. Then this happens that when a man loses his job, right, and his wife is still earning some money, and all of a sudden he feels less manly. Does that make sense?
yeah.
You're supposed to be a provider, true. You're supposed to be striving and have some level of control in finances, such that your house is run by you, true. You're supposed to strive for that, right? But is that a reality for every man in the world? No, not at all times, right? Even let's say, because people lose jobs, correct? They're in phases of transitioning and career development, correct? Right? So there might be times where it's not possible in that particular household. Does that mean all of a sudden your masculinity should go up and down like ocean waves? No. A manly man stays being a manly man if he knew what manliness was. You see that? And if he doesn't know what manliness was, then he gets riled up big time. You understand? Okay.
So, sorry, just follow up.
Go.
So if the dynamics do shift,
Yes.
for example, like the husband's now a stay-at-home husband, but he hasn't lost his sense of manliness. He does what he needs to do to take care of his kids. But the external view, say from the community, he's kind of looked down upon. You know, how can you let your wife be the one making all the money while you just stay at home and take care of the kids? You know, that's not your job. Does that external view actually affect his masculinity?
If he is somebody who says plan A is this, plan A is that I sit at home and honey, you go out and you earn the bucks. That's her plan A. Know any man that does that? Probably not. Fitratan is not in you. You find yourself in that situation. You don't choose that situation. You don't like aim for it. Does that make sense? Anybody get married saying that, oh yeah, if you are getting married with this thought in mind that, oh, I'm just going to sit at home and I'm going to have, this wife go and earn the living and I'm going to, do my shisha and play my PS5 at home, you're not a man yet, right? A manly man is somebody who actually doesn't plan for dependency on his spouse. Fitratan. You see that? So, but difficulties sometimes cause a person to fall in that situation. If a person sees that he's deviated and he's now settled in that phase, or that he accepts it as plan A, then that is a question on masculinity. Does that make sense? But if it's not the case, if it's a temporary phase that they're going through, you understand? And he understands that his manliness is there. If you have gold in your hand, you have two hands right now, right? If everybody in the room comes and says, you're actually one-handed, what, are you going to be phased? No, right? You see that? If you understood manliness and you know you have it, the whole community can be like, you're not manly. But you're like, what are you talking about? Does that make sense or no? So if this trait is something that you own and you understand, then what others say doesn't matter to you. Do you understand? When does it matter? Is if you don't know if you own it because you're not clear about what it is. And then you're like, do you think, can you validate if this is actually manliness or not? I mean, you actually aren't a man to begin with. You're looking for external validation on something that you're supposed to be having. Does that make sense? And then, God forbid, in that situation, somebody does validate something. How do you know it's real? The whole community comes to you and calls you a manly man. Okay? You weren't able to identify it yourself, and you weren't able to label it yourself. How do you know it's real? The same conundrum happens with God. If you believe in God because everybody else believes in God, then how do you know it's real? Those questions are real, right? It's a valid doubt to have, correct? If you only believe because others are believing, then you're in trouble. Correct or not correct? But if your belief is something that's stemming from your own understanding, then if the whole world becomes kafir, you're going, I'm sorry. And as real as I feel the hunger in my tummy right now, I know God is. I feel hungry. You see what I'm trying to say? Once it becomes an experiential thing, and the whole world can come and say, Aziz, that's not the case. And you like, Amir al-Mu'minin, right? The whole world in this time came to him and says, you're not the leader. He's like, said, this leadership that you guys think is less valuable in my eyes than the snot of a goat. You see that? You see that? Apply that same method of thinking to manliness. Does that answer your question? Okay. Any other questions? Okay.
Kind of takes us out of the topic of this. I had a question about Tafiruna.
Okay.
The specific case of Nabi Yunus alayhi salam, and how he left his qawm, his people before they turned back to Allah, or they turned to Allah. And does this count as tark al-awla, or is this enough?
Who decides tark al-awla?
The Nabi himself, by him choosing.
If he decides tark al-awla, me, you're
Or
saying
is-
then he saw the better thing to do and he left it? That's what happened?
No, I'm incorrect. I would say Allah would choose it.
Okay, how do you know it was tark al-awla then?
Because there would be a better option.
How do you know? Anywhere in the Quran say there'll be a better option?
I guess not, no.
No?
No. I haven't.
Yes?
I haven't done full tasbih of these.
Okay, now I've got entangled you in your own intensity. Okay. In the case of Hazrat Yunus alayhi salam, he understood that 2 plus 2 equals 4, and he saw 2, and he saw plus, and he saw 2, and he saw the equal sign. Okay? And he gave it the effects of 4. He didn't wait for a God to show him 4 as well. He saw exactly when it is that a qawm should get adab. He saw that. He saw his qawm reaching that station. He saw that. He saw that the adab is coming. He saw that. And he saw the perception that at this particular phase, a Nabi typically should be leaving now. He saw that. The only issue which caused it to be tark al-awla is that he gave the effects of 4 to 2 plus 2. You see that? 2 plus 2 equals, he gave the effects of 4 to it. Without Allah first saying to him, go give the effects of 4 to it. That's it. Otherwise, Allah was there, he was seeing and about to come to his qawm, and clearly him being a Nabi, he wasn't going to get caught up in the adab. You see that? Okay. It's very important to understand what we mean when we talk about the Anbiya. The highest station of a non-ma'soom is still far below the lowest station of the Anbiyas. You see that? Okay. Does that make sense a little bit? Where Nabi Yunus alayhi salam at his apex recites Zikr Yunusiyya, right? La ilaha illa anta subhanaka inni kuntu min al-dhalimin, while he's in 3 dhulumat. The darkness of the night, the darkness of the ocean, and the darkness of the belly of the whale. Each has actually a particular meaning to it. I won't open it up here. Okay? While he's in the 3 dhulumat, he says a particular line. Imam Hussein in Dua Arafah starts with that level, that line, and 20 lines after that he continues and increases in levels. And he displays to us there's greater perfection, greater understanding. And Dua Arafah, the first zikr is Zikr Yunusiyya, and Imam Hussein continues that and shows us stage 2, stage 3, stage 4, stage 5, very, very far ahead. You see that? So even this idea of perfection has a gradient to it. But if you understood perfection to be a point, then you don't understand gradients and points. Does that make sense? If perfection is a point, then there's an on and an off switch. If you're either perfect or you're not. If you understood perfection as a point, then understanding that one ma'soom is greater than the other doesn't make sense to you. But you understood perfection as a point. Well, the question is perfection from what? If perfection from committing a sin was the gradient, then all of a sudden it's not a point. It can be gradential. Correct or not correct? You see that? And the only one who is perfect from everything, including being dependent, is Allah. He is the all-independent. Correct? You see that? So what perfect regarding what is important? Otherwise you'll see it as a point. As in only Allah is there, no one else. And that Allah is a one for whom a second is not fathomable. Okay. Next question. No questions. We say salawat and we peace out. Go ahead.
It's not a question, but there's a message on your phone, I think, battery's almost dead.
Oh, it's okay.
Just to make sure the recording doesn't go.
If it dies, it dies. There's no sign here, but maybe this is gonna die soon. Good. Inshallah. Okay. Questions or no questions? Go ahead.
What are some tips or strategies we can do to, like, always keep God salient on our minds, always like remember God, even when we're in situations at school or work or whatever, where we feel busy with other things and God doesn't feel like our priority.
One understanding is what I said on the minbar, that to understand that you're an owned thing, right? Every time I think of Sayyid Kamil, if I thought Allah is Sayyid Kamil, very different identity than Sayyid Kamil. Does that make sense? Every time I think of my brother's PS5, very different than thinking of just a PS5. I treat them very differently. PS5? PS5, right? I have had PlayStation 2 back when I was kicking, playing. So you see that? When you connect ownership, you treat things differently. Does that make sense or no? So the moment you connect ownership to yourself, then you start treating yourself differently. That's what you want. You want to treat yourself better. That's all Allah wants from you. Saying, please stop cutting yourself. Right? Treat yourself better. That's it. And one step is to, for example, look at yourself as Allah's you. Do you see that? Very practical, simple stuff. When you're referring to yourself, and you have to say it, I'm Allah's. But in your mind, at the very least, be attentive. You're owned. That's it. It's very simple. I read Atomic Habits. A really nice book. I read that book. It has a 1% change applied over a large period of time is a big change. See that? Don't go for massive changes that die very quickly. Go for small changes that happen for a very long period of time. If you go to the gym for 4 hours, but you only go for a week, compared that to if you go to the gym for 20 minutes, but you go for 20 years. Which one has a more positive impact on your person? Assuming everything else stayed the same. Well, the prolonged, small but consistent, right? The same thing goes for a spiritual development. Small but consistent. You see that? That's the essence of muraqabah and muhasabah too, right? The Imam have said, somebody who doesn't do hisab of himself at night time, and isn't aware that he's an owned creature in the daytime, he's not from us. Not from the Shias, basically. And we're saying, all you Shias, in the daytime, know you're owned, and at night time, make sure you acted like an owned person. That's it. You see that? Okay. Any other questions? This is it. I will answer only at my caliber. If you expect from a 2-year-old to talk like a 20-year-old, it's a you problem, right? So if you expect from me an answer beyond my reach, it's a you problem. I will only be able to answer within my reach. Any other questions? Go ahead.
Not specifically, just specifically about you. Do you have like any videos on topics, or do you specifically like teach specific people, or is that like the opening for your lessons?
Yeah, I have been blessed with the capacity to teach individuals. I've shared some links with Brother Samir, and if you want, you can ask him for those links if you wish, inshallah.
Can you answer your first question you asked us?
Which one?
About being like the apex of masculinity. What is peak masculinity to you?
To me, I told you the example of the Holy Prophet. I just told you that I told you the destination, that it's fatherhood, right? But what I didn't tell you is the proof behind it and what fatherhood is. The fatherhood of animals is simply to be able to have offspring, correct? But the fatherhood of humans must be different than the fatherhood of animals. Otherwise, the fatherhood is not a peak specific thing to human masculinity. You see that? You see that? If the fatherhood of a man was simply understood as fatherhood of any animal, then you'd be in a lot of trouble, correct? Because it's not a peak specific thing to human masculinity. Right or wrong? Human males look different than chimpanzee males and look different than horse males, correct or not? Right? Okay. If in our physical appearance we're different, in our metaphysical appearance we're different as well, and our trait of fatherhood is a metaphysical reality. We're different in that too. So human masculinity has a human fatherhood in it. And human fatherhood, I gave you, sometimes when you're trying to train AI bots, right? You train AI bots by giving them examples. You throw like 5,000 chairs in front of it and like 2 apples. And if it got them correct, you're like, good job. And you keep training it like that. Every time it makes a mistake, you switch it up. That's how bot training works, right? AI bots. Uh, so I gave you bot training. I threw examples at you. That if you want to understand what fatherhood is, Islamic fatherhood, human fatherhood, the apex position of masculinity in Islam, I gave you two examples: the Holy Prophet and Amirul Mu'minin. Yeah, I did bot training. I said here, instead of asking 20 questions, consider the examples. The peak is that. Go after that. If that trait can be found in them and is worthy of them, go after it. If it's not in them, not worthy of them, then drop it like it's hot. Quite literally. It's hot, it's fire, it's burning. If a trait is not with them, then by definition that trait is hellfire itself. Drop it as soon as you can. You see that? No more questions? Okay. صلى على محمد وآل محمد. Okay. Now, reverse questionnaire. I ask you questions. Tell me one thing you actually benefited from today. And it's okay to say I didn't benefit. It's just that if you tell me that I didn't benefit, I will ask you why. And I expect a very real response because it helps me. Okay? And we'll play a voluntold game. Go ahead.
I think for those questions that you answered was one of the biggest things. There's a bunch of stuff, but that was the biggest thing. Just being in that perspective that you're owned by, like, having that perception of, that you're owned by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And rather than like having that in mind with all your actions, that you're not doing stuff just for your personal gain, but you're doing stuff as in something that's sold.
Yeah, very good. Otherwise, sitting here, if I think I'm the owner of myself, I'll get away with talking about fluff and wasting your time. But if I feel like I'm owned, then I'll make sure that the owner is watching. Be careful.
Yeah, I was gonna say the same thing. That point that you mentioned. The other thing would be when you talked about addiction, and just in general, knowing that you have to take steps to remove yourself from the habit, rather than when you're away from the habit and then given the opportunity to come back, and to relapse. So you have
Exactly.
to take the steps like moving your phone away.
Exactly. Exactly.
From what I understood, manliness is fatherhood, and what fatherhood is, you can learn that by studying the character of Amir al-Mu'minin alayhi salam or Nabi Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. So, like if I want to know what, like if I want an in-depth explanation of what manliness is, look at their traits, and then my conclusion
And
is talk
no, wait a second. Conclusion. Is your understanding of them gradual, or is it 1 second you look at them and you know them? It's gradual, right?
Yeah.
Then you're progressively going to go towards that which you understand. You see that? But the more you know, can you ever be like, oh yeah, I know them now. That's it. Everything about them, got it. You see that?
Yeah.
Then you understand that then manliness in Islam becomes a progressive journey. The more you know, the more it's like a flashlight. It only shows 1 meter ahead of you. After you walk that meter, another meter is shown. See that? And near your car tail lights, when they're driving from Toronto to Kingston, 2-hour journey, light the whole way? Probably not, right? They only light at max 20, 30 meters ahead of your car, correct? At max, right? And then when you travel that, the next batch becomes visible, correct? This gradual progression is very real. Same with fatherhood. When you shed light to a little bit of understanding about the Ahl Bayt, in particular the Holy Prophet and Amir al-Mu'minin, and you try to actually understand that more, then a bit more is shown to you. See that? And you travel slowly, slowly. That make sense? So it's not conclusion. It's not. It's no test. Not multiple choice answer testing. And it's a constant journey of growing. And you?
To bounce off this point, when you speak about addiction, and I guess trying to stop addiction, not to look at it as an actual like a stat or something that's like a number, but maybe more or less like a plan or trying to get like in a better habit of stopping addiction. Not like if you're addicted to something, don't stop right away. Try to, I guess.
I didn't say don't stop right away. I said observe yourself and plan for yourself.
That's
Yeah.
what I'm saying. Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
I didn't give validity to continuing things that are haram.
No, yeah,
Right?
that's
Yeah.
not what I'm saying. I don't know, just like just gradually stopping the things that you're addicted to.
Look to the past. If you're addicted and you're woken up and you recognize and labeled yourself as an addict, that's the first thing. If you're not a sick person, you're not going to go and get medicine, are you? Not sick, correct? First, label, I'm addicted to this thing. Then look in the past and see what has made me fall in, right? And then try to change things up today. How long does it take to quit addiction? How long? If you think that you're going to quit, you will never quit. You have to act to quit. You have to say, I have quit in the past. You understand that? If you are thinking that you are quitting or that you will quit, both of these things are not quitting at all. They're promises of quitting. See that? Overcoming addiction starts with understanding that you already made the decision. You have quit. See that? You understand that? It's very important. It's a philosophical point there that I'm not going to open up. But understand that. It starts with the uh, uh, understanding that the race has started. I've already started the race. Not about to start, and I'm not starting. Started. That helps a lot. That means that I might not make a mistake now, even today. Does that make sense? Okay. You.
Also, yeah, like the explanation about the addiction, you cut off like the sources that cause it, the phone conflicts, for example. That leads to small steps, and then eventually you willingly go into like the that thing. Like you just answer the question like how you said, analyze the root cause of what really comes to that. Just change it, make a small change, and then hopefully it won't happen again.
Not hopefully, you're planning for it to not happen. Right? Look, in a high school, everybody's supposed to graduate, right? That's how it's set up, right? They put a classroom, teacher, this and that to graduate, correct? Do you go up to the people who graduated and say, how did you graduate? Or do you go to the flunkers and say, how did you flunk? They had remission tests in summer school and this teacher and that teacher and applied class and this class. How did you still flunk? You know what I'm trying to say? When it comes time to quitting addiction, if an intellectual person is approaching it, you don't go towards the ones who relapse. So you don't go towards the ones who kind of stay away from addictions. You go to the people who relapse and say, how did you relapse? Even though you had so much history of understanding why you fall and where you fall. Why did you fall again? You understand? Where did you go wrong? That's what brings a real motivation to change. Otherwise, if you're like, yeah, the common thing is to relapse, and I'm the common thing, then guess what? You're an addict, and you'll stay an addict. See that? Until you shift that understanding that I'm the common thing in a high school is not the flunkers, it's the people who graduate. The common thing for a human is not the addicts, it's the ones who are disconnected, not addicted. You see that? If you don't have that understanding, you're going to remain addicted.
For me, it wasn't necessarily like an answer. It was more so the fact that like you wanted us to know what we're asking before you answer. So like with the example of like what is addiction to you or what do you think addiction is, I think it's like important for us to know what we want the answer to be before we actually ask it. So I think most of the times with like most Q&As, the person asks the question, you just kind of get the answer you want to hear, not that you have to hear. So I think it was beneficial that like you had us understand, like it's such a simple question at times, but really it's not. So like it was important to like kind of dig into that first before answering the question. So that definitely was beneficial for me.
Yeah. Every question, every comment is person specific. Every comment. See that? It's person specific. If you ask me the exact same question in terms of appearance, is it the same question asked? No. Because the words might be the same, but your understandings of the question might be completely different. If I gave the answer to you that belongs to him, and the answer to you, the one that belongs to that guy, I've done both of you a disservice. So first I gotta understand who's asking to be able to appreciate what's being asked before I can even start to respond. Does that make sense? Yeah.
So for me, throughout the
stuck with me, specifically with masculinity, was the when you brought up how to be masculine is not always about, you know, like your finances, or especially I think when Ali was asking about how, like, let's say the woman was the breadwinner in the family, does that impact the man's, I guess, so-called masculinity? I also enjoyed how you kind of also, in a way, gave us different perceptions of what masculinity is. I really enjoyed that from the conversation.
Alhamdulillah. You enjoyed it. What did you benefit from?
I guess
I enjoy pizza. An obese person enjoys pizza, right?
for
But
sure.
does it benefit them?
I guess where I like the benefit from it was seeing the different perceptions on masculinity. Like masculinity isn't always about, you know, like we said, finances. It's about maybe like providing, taking care of your family.
Okay. As long as you can link it to Amir al-Mu'minin and the Holy Prophet.
Of course, yes.
Not in a fluffy way.
I benefited from, how he said, instead of, you think of the example of going to the gym, right, for a number of hours with 1 week instead of 20 minutes a whole year. I don't know, you also said for spiritually too, right? I benefited from that, example, learning like 20 minutes every day, when you're constantly, is better than learning a lot for just a short time.
Yeah, very good.
Similar to him, I benefited from you shifting my perspective on masculinity. So instead of masculinity being fatherhood and fatherhood encompasses X, Y, and Z, it's rather the essence of Amir al-Mu'mineen and Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So that shift in perspective, I think, is what I benefited from the most.
That's how we work, right? In the West, if you look at the Western understanding of masculinity, and when you think of it, in your head, images will pop of people who you think embody those traits. See that? For some people, it'll be Pate, Tate, Mate, whatever the guy's name is. You know what I'm saying?
Oh yeah.
You know what I'm saying? We attribute and symbolize traits in personalities innately, fitratan. That's why Allah used personalities to teach us about traits, because we do it everywhere else. That's why today I told you about the Holy Prophet and Amir al-Mu'mineen as personalities to show you traits of those particular personalities. See that?
Benefited from we have a supposed view of what masculinity is, and whenever it's faced by the West, you kind of opened my eyes to see that we should really follow the holy prophets and the imams, and based on that, achieve masculinity.
Yeah, there are true role models. Hassan, thank you.
Say the biggest benefit is the understanding that perception and that your perception is important on any matter, because like you said, if you follow a yellow Pikachu, if you follow a red Pikachu, you're not gonna find a red Pikachu or what a Pikachu is. So if my understanding of masculinity is, let's say, agitate, I'm not gonna achieve real masculinity. So to obtain or overcome an addiction or such and such, you have to get the right understanding of such thing before you.
Hassan. Hint, hint. When you're going looking for a wife, if you don't know what real feminineness is in Islam, you might marry somebody who's actually not a female. God forbid. Go ahead.
I'd say the benefiting from knowing that you're called by Allah, and just to keep that in mind, and just keep that in mind when you're doing actions, in general, stuff like that.
Okay, thank you. Salawat, please. Thank you very much.